Donald Trump has spent the last 3 days with his lawyers working on answers for Bob Mueller, and apparently it's getting under his skin because now he's lashing out at the entire Russia probe again, despite his new AG. Trump saying the inner workings of the Mueller investigation are a total mess. And that's the first time he's claimed to have knowledge of the inner workings of Mueller's team. It's not clear what he might be referring to. It comes just over a week after he named that loyalist, Matt Whitaker, to oversee the probe right after the election. Now, Trump also says Mueller's prosecutors are, quote, screaming and shouting at people, horribly threatening them to come up with the answers they want. Now, there isn't a lot of evidence of that, and of course, it doesn't really match what we know from both Bob Mueller's public life and the leak-proof investigation he's been running. The special counsel's office typically had no comment on any of this. Now, a federal judge, meanwhile, has ruled against the company run by a man known as Putin's chief and said that Mueller's charges against that operation will stand. I'm joined now tonight by former federal prosecutor Paul Butler, and still with me on the ground here is Jason Johnson. Paul, what does it tell you that Donald Trump has now put someone in that he thinks is better than Rod Rosenstein and Jeff Sessions at his goals for the DOJ, and he's still fulminating against this probe?
So something is making President Trump run scared. Ari, I think there are three possibilities. The most nefarious is that his dude, Matt Whitaker, is now in charge of the investigation. He's getting information from Mueller. I hate to think that he's sharing that information with the president, but you can't rule that out. Other more benign possibilities are that he is debriefing, or his legal team is debriefing other witnesses to the grand jury, and they're allowed to tell anybody what happens. Prosecutors can't say what happened in the grand jury, but witnesses can. Or the third possibility is his own lawyers are meeting with special counsel Mueller. Prosecutors usually give defense attorneys a heads up about what's coming down the pike. What could be coming down the pike is more indictments, including against Roger Stone or against Donald Trump Jr.
Well, you mentioned Donald Trump Jr. He was out saying that he's not worried. Jason, take a look.
Are you scared that you could go to jail?
I'm not, because I know what I did, and I'm not worried about any of that. You know, that doesn't mean they won't try to create something. I mean, we've seen that happen with everything. But, you know, again, I'm not.
He's not worried.
Yeah, I don't buy that. It's like that old Chappelle Show sketch. It's like, I'll go to jail. I'll go to jail. He doesn't want to go to jail. He doesn't want to be indicted, and he's terrified. And he's been saying this for weeks now. I think the issue is he doesn't know what kind of charges could be coming. And that's what's interesting about what the president has just said. Oh, I think Mueller's the inside of it is a mess. They don't know. They're spitballing. They hope that Mueller will link. This whole investigation has been a steel trap. They have been the New England Patriots. They don't leak. They don't talk. No one knows anything. And everyone is just hoping right now that when these indictments come out, because they'll be coming soon, I suspect they'll be coming before the end of the year, they're just hoping that the charges aren't things that they can't get out of court.
Although I wouldn't always compare Mueller to the Patriots because he doesn't cheat.
Well, this doesn't quite count as cheating if you still win. I'm just saying.
You know what, Paul?
Eagles fan.
That's a bigger issue than the Russia controversy to try to get into that. I'm out of my depth. But I want to ask you what it means that we're out of the so-called quiet period. Our viewers have learned a lot from prosecutors like yourself about how, while it's not a law, there is certainly a tradition of avoiding big moves before an election. Donald Trump may not care about that, but he certainly waited to do the Whitaker thing till after, maybe because he thought it would look bad, look guilty going right into the midterms, bring Russia back up. But Mueller hasn't done anything big in public yet. Do you interpret anything from that?
Absolutely, that Robert Mueller respects the norms and traditions of the Justice Department. The Justice Department is not political, and it tries not to influence how elections come out. So there's been this policy of a 60-day rule. You don't make noise in a case that might have political implications, but then after, you can file stuff like what we saw filed yesterday with this intriguing clue about Rick Gates. So Mueller said, okay.
Let me read that,
sure,
and then get your analysis on it. You're talking about something a lot of people have been zeroing in on this. I'm going to read exactly what we have. This is from a new filing regarding Gates, as you mentioned. Mueller saying defendant Gates continues to cooperate with respect to, quote, several ongoing investigations, Paul.
Wow, this is juicy, Ari. So we know that other people are ready for sentencing, like George Papadopoulos, Michael Flynn, but there's something about this cat, Roger Gates, that he's not ready. And what else do we know about Rick Gates? We know that even after Paul Manafort got fired, Rick Gates stayed on with the Trump campaign. He was riding around in that Trump plane in August of 2016. He was the campaign representative to the RNC, and he even was part of the Trump inaugural team. So he knows stuff, and now it's in his interest to tell Mueller everything that he knows. He's still looking at 10 years in prison. The more goods he gives up, the less time that he does. Again, whatever he's telling Mueller is good enough that Mueller wants to keep listening.
And Paul, when we see several ongoing investigations, it's also a reminder that while there's been so much discussion about what Whitaker could do regarding Mueller, there is this set of open investigations in New York, totally different prosecutors that have been farmed out, relating to Michael Cohen confessing to crimes relating to the campaign, I should say, as well as whatever else they're looking at that might touch on Trump's businesses. Go ahead.
So Whitaker directly supervises Robert Mueller now, thanks to the president's move. He's still the boss of U.S. attorneys all over the country, but he should not be involved in direct supervision. And so Mueller, very canny, very savvy, farmed off aspects of this investigation to other U.S. attorneys, and that insulates those investigations in part. But remember, Mueller still got the meat and potatoes. His jurisdiction is collusion and obstruction. He's hanging on to that. There was this idea that there's going to be a report really soon and Mueller's going to go back to whatever he was doing. That filing yesterday, it sure didn't suggest that. It looks like Mueller has a ways to go.
Well, and so you're getting into the org chart here. Your point is that while the special counsel is, by its very nature and name, special, and we knew all about Rosenstein and now Whitaker having that direct oversight interaction, you're saying the stuff in New York, the U.S. attorney level stuff, it wouldn't really be appropriate for Whitaker to be involved in that day to day?
Not in a direct supervisor way. Again, he gets to make the ultimate judgment calls, which is, again, why there's still grave concerns about Matt Whitaker being the chief law enforcement officer in the United States, given all these personal and professional conflicts that he's got.
I'm going to fit in a quick break.
He's the boss of the U.S. attorneys.
You're saying he's the boss. I mean, we're down here in Miami where we've been hearing about the other boss, Rick Ross. Rick Ross, the boss.
And just
Paul
real
Butler,
quick, if you're in Miami, again, this attorney general, he's got exposure there. That's where the fraud that the company that he was on the board of ran. There's an FBI investigation in Miami. He's kind of the boss of that investigation as well. Ari, this man is a walking conflict of interest.
Paul Butler, knowing every nook and cranny of this, I guess I was gonna leave, but I'm gonna go back to Jason and say, why is so much stuff going down in Florida? That's really the question.
Well, I think because you have so many different opportunities here, both politically and financially, to get yourself in trouble. Whether you're cutting deals on Mar-a-Lago, whether you're cutting deals to sort of mess with the vote, this is a state where everything happens. And maybe at some point, everything will happen to the good for American democracy. We don't know that yet.
Well, and in our reporting this week, and I'm not saying whether this is 100% true, but I was told of this saying that Broward County is sometimes called the Florida of Florida.
I can believe that.
I believe it, and I've only been here 4 days. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.